Bust it.
Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform on Repa FM and Ait Abuja and Ait International. My name is Amechi Anokwu. It's a beautiful Monday morning in Abuja. Nigerians are getting ready for 2019 general elections. The amendment of the Electoral Act facing a lot of problems and controversy in the National Assembly. But one move that has elicited lots of reaction with allegations of an attempt to rig that election is current move by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to establish new polling units across the country. It was the same move that took place in 2015, just before the election, when the then Atahiru Jega-led INEC wanted to create new polling units in the country, but some people observed that it was coming too late, too close to election, and they alleged that it's being done to favor some parts of the country. For instance, the then Jega-led INEC wanted to create additional 30,000 polling units, and Northwest Geopolitical Zone was to get 7,906, Northeast 5,291, North Central 6,318, Southwest 4,160, South 3,087, and Southeast 1,167. I wondered why the distribution of the proposed new polling units was done in such a way that it appeared it favored the northern part of the country. And at the end of the day, after so much pressure on the INEC, it was dropped. Now, since then, nothing happened. But close to another election, the Independent National Electoral Commission, led by Mahmoud, is thinking along that line. This time around, they call it voting point settlement. They said it's an administrative process. There's the need and cause for new polling units to be established as the population is expanding, almost 200 million. The population, the geography is expanding. There's need to create new polling units to accommodate every voter. The idea is 500 voters per polling units, and INEC said it is a legitimate move to ensure that every part of the country is effectively covered in readiness for the election. But the PDP was at the lead of the opposition that alleged that it was a sinister move to rig the election in favor of the ruling APC. But the INEC almost immediately came out to deny that, saying there is no intention to rig. It's a normal administrative process as part of activities marking preparations for the election. We'll be hearing from INEC itself on why it chose to begin the process now, and for further clarifications on the issue. And from the Washington, D.C., that's the capital of the United States, what did Nigerian government officials go there to do as part of the Nigerian government delegation to attend the spring meeting of the World Bank and the IMF? It was the Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, that raised allegations against several ministers and heads of parastatals, such as the CBN governor, that an investment summit organized by the Nigerian mission in Washington at the Nigerian embassy there, where foreign investors were supposed to meet with Nigerian government officials, they failed to show up. It was one thing that made many to begin to question why did they go there in the first place. But two persons whose name feature prominently in that saga, the Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele and Minister of Finance Kemi Adoshu have given reasons on why they failed to attend that meeting. They said they were supposed to be at the main IMF meeting, and to that extent, they were not aware in the first place that it was part of the itinerary even before they got to Washington. We'll be raising issues and questions on what really happened. And the president has blamed the killings in Nigeria, especially in the Middle Belt, to politicians. Well, it was the president himself who told some international guests in London that it was the activities of terrorists trained and armed by late Libyan President Muammar Gaddafi that infiltrated into the country. But his spokesperson, Garuba Shehu, is giving a different account that the continuous killing up to yesterday, about 16 or so were killed in Kogi. Almost every day we hear of killings in Benue, Plateau, Taraba, many of them that it is the handiwork of politicians. My name is Amechi Anakwu again. My colleagues are here. Uju Eje is joining me in the studio this morning.
Amechi, I wonder if some officials are not tired of giving excuses. Every time we hear one excuse or the other for not being able to give Nigerians, to not being able to fulfill the aspirations of Nigerians in electing them into office and consequently their appointment to help the elected leaders. We keep having excuses, and the more these excuses are criticized, it's like the more we are having. Are we going to go through 4 whole years of excuses? It's over 3 years now. So all we have from 2015 to date are just excuses. That's not acceptable. That's not, no matter how bad things may be, no matter who you think or whatever, the essence of appointing you as a leader or electing you as a leader is for you to make a difference. And that's what Nigerians are expecting. Nothing more and nothing less.
Well, the APC says the ruling party, it is in talks with some opposition parties to form an alliance ahead of the 2019 elections. Last week, we told you of moves by the main opposition party, PDP, to also go into an alliance with some parties. So it's a season of alliances, and it's normal in wars, in elections, in normal human relations, in business transactions. You talk of partnership, cooperations. It's allowed, and the APC is also moving towards that angle. And we hear they hope to inaugurate their National Convention Planning Committee later today. Mustafa Mohammed is in the studio with me.
Amechi, thank you. You know, this issue of new voting point by the Independent National Electoral Commission is long overdue. Nigeria's population has increased. You know that in so many places you have more than 500 voters, more than 1,000. The queue extends. At times it goes to an extent that up to the time the voting will be closed, some people will not be able to vote. Yes, and of course the electronic verification system at the point of voting is also very slow. I can just give you a few examples. Look at the Kaduna-Abuja highway. It is divided between the FCT and Kaduna State. There are so many new Niger State and Kaduna. There are so many new settlements. Look at the Abuja-Kefi highway between the FCT and Nasarawa State, and between Kefi, Akwanga, Lafia, a lot of new settlement. Before even going to Akwanga and other places, here you have Adon Sama, Adon Kasa, Maraba, Masaka, Ado, Autaba Lefi, name them. How can we disenfranchise these thousands of Nigerians, hundreds of thousands, if not millions? I'm talking about just 3-4 states. What about the other states? And the Independent National Electoral Commission needs to ignore all those hues and cries of politicians who have been benefiting from the inefficiency of the system to go ahead and do. Even close to Asokoro here, where you call Abacha Road, there's areas, nothing, Riganjuli, Rigamadaki, you know, Angwa, Albarka, hundreds of thousands of new settlements, which I can tell you, even the government administrative at the state level is not even aware of some of them. That's why infrastructure is lacking. People have to provide using their communal money.
Amechi, I think that perhaps what is making it look suspicious to politicians and other stakeholders is the fact that these moves always come very close to elections. Maybe if we started earlier, if we started from the first or second year of this administration or any other administration for that matter, people will not be suspicious. But a situation where you say changing the sequence of elections may work contrary to the effectiveness of INEC, and then you not say delineation of the polling units, coming up with polling units, would also be effectively carried out within the same short space of time. It looks somehow, it's a good idea, like Mustafa has pointed out, but I think that timing is what is making it suspicious.
What many others queried, especially the 2015 move, was the distribution of the new polling centers. For instance, the Northeast, where insurgency is a big factor, they proposed to put in place 5,291 new polling units, and the Southwest 4,160. They felt, if you check the demography, that it doesn't add up. These are some of the issues.
Yes, most of that you have IDPs who are not in their original towns now. They are outside that place. Who would you be creating the units?
Who will be hearing from the INEC? But first, let's get to share some of your mails, some of your comments and suggestions on issues bordering on Nigeria's political development.
Thanks, Amechi. Welcome to the mail segment. I'm Amaka Okoro.
I am Etenikan Akipo. You're welcome.
We'll begin with a reaction to President Muhammadu Buhari's comment on the Nigerian youth, and it's coming from Comrade Monday Ame in Abuja. He says, please permit me to react to your analysis and mails on the comment made by President Muhammadu Buhari on Nigerian youths at the Commonwealth Business Forum in London on Wednesday, April 18, 2018, where he gave a keynote address on making business easier between Commonwealth countries. Furthermore, for clarity, let me quote the president verbatim. We have a very young population. Our population is estimated conservatively to be 180 million. More than 60% of the population is below the age of 30. A lot of them have not been to school, and they are claiming that Nigeria has been an oil-producing country. Therefore, they should sit and do nothing and get housing, healthcare, and education free. Following from the above, it is crystal clear that the president never generalized his comment, as some naysayers will want us to believe, all in an attempt to paint him bad and pitch him against the youth. I wish to admonish journalists, public affairs analysts, bloggers, oppositions, and staunch critics of the president to avoid quoting his speech or comment out of context just to score cheap political goals. Finally, with the looming political campaigns for 2019 general elections, I urge the president's media aides to up their game by promptly releasing the speech of the president to the public to avoid unnecessary distortions.
More reactions to the president's comments. Uche Uchendu in Abuja says, it is not more news that President Muhammadu Buhari denigrated the Nigerian youth with his statements at the Commonwealth Forum, which has led to outrage both for and against the president. Permit me to take another angle to the issue. Has anyone bothered to note that the question put to President Muhammadu Buhari was totally different from his response? He was asked about the free trade agreement, which he refused to sign to, but rather started talking about population, demography, and youthful laziness. I wonder how the world will see us in the international scene. God bless Nigeria. That's it on the mail segment. Keep your mails coming. Send them to politicalplatform@yahoo.com.
Thank you so much for the mails. Let's start with moves by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to create a new polling unit, or what they call voting point settlements. Joining us on the line now is the Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman of INEC, Rotimi Oyuyekomi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, my brother.
So, the PDP and some others are uncomfortable that you're doing these new polling units demarcation so late in the day. They allege that there's some sinister motive behind it. Is it right?
Well, they are not correct, and we have not decided yet to create any 30,000 polling units. What happened really was that we received requests over time totaling about 3,789 from all over the country, from states all over the country, for us to come and establish polling units in their respective new settlements and areas where they don't have such polling units. And when all these requests were vested, the Commission now decided to write to the resident electoral commissioner in the state for information, and we gave guidelines. We wanted information on 4 premises. 1, new settlements that are not served or inadequately served by the existing polling units. Then 2, areas with natural barriers that hinder access to existing polling units. 3, areas that are distant from existing polling units. And finally, areas affected by communal and other conflicts that make voting in existing polling units unsafe for voters. So it is when this information is sent to the headquarters that we will now even subject that to our own scrutiny, invite stakeholders, discuss the modalities that will take place before we even establish any polling unit.
So with all these processes be done and the new polling units created before the 2019 general elections?
That's what I'm saying, that, I cannot say for now how many polling units will be created or if any polling units will be created at all, because it's an ongoing process, and there are levels.
But why did you commence so late in the day? Recall what happened in 2015 when INEC also wanted to do same, but people said it was close to the election and they dropped it. One would have thought that immediately this new regime in INEC came into office, it would have been one of the first assignments it will embark on.
Yes, when I started the conversation, I remember I said that we had a request. The request that we had formed the basis of the action we're about to take, because we harvested such requests. And, this commission came in 2015, and we couldn't have embarked on this because we didn't have this number of requests then for us to say, okay, there's a justification for us to embark on this sort of thing. So that's the difference. And like I said, if...
So there was no handover note or what detailing what the past regime did and what suggestions from them on what you should do?
No. We are aware that the commission tried to establish some polling units before. You see, it's still this question of lack of trust. Because what the commission was simply trying to do was to make it easier for people to vote, so that the existing polling units will not be overcrowded and people will find it enjoyable when they go out to vote on election day. But unfortunately, some people felt that the commission was trying to favor one part of the country against the other, which wasn't the case, So, but this process is independent of that other one. It has nothing to do.
So the numbers that were proposed during 2015 may change this time around.
Well, we are not even looking at the number that was done before or anything like that, because this is a fresh initiative based on the existing evidence and the existing criteria that we have. So it's a fresh thing that to say, okay, is it really necessary for us to have this? If people are saying, our population is growing, new settlements are springing up, and if people, rightly or wrongly, feel that they have the right to vote and participate in the electoral process, and they want us to come and establish polling units, we owe it an obligation to listen to them. Not just listen to them, to look at the merits behind what they are saying.
Beyond the allegation of the process starting late, some other persons have also alleged that it was done in secrecy, that within the INEC, that those who should be in the know at the onset were not in the know. Some people said it was even Atahiru Jega, the former INEC chairman, that made a speech where he was commending the present INEC for taking up that initiative, that people got to know of the process.
Thank you very much. We have internal processes, and when we are undertaking our internal processes, we get to the end before we make any announcement. So it's not done in secret. It's an internal process, because this is precisely what INEC was established to do. What actually happened, what the press is focusing on, is a leaked memo, a memo from the headquarters to the resident electoral commissioners, and sadly, the facts in that memo were not reported correctly. People, for some reason, just drew analogy from a past event and tried to bring that in, which is wrong.
I saw a copy of one of the memos. It read yes. March 20, 2018, and it's less than a year to election. These are the basis why people begin to impugn some negative perception into it.
And the same thing happened towards 2015, thereby also raising suspicion that probably what people thought was the intention then is what is being repeated now.
You know, the truth of the matter is that what does it really matter if we embarked on this in 2016 and now? Do you think people will still not say we are trying to do something sinister? Whichever way, head or tail, people will still complain. It doesn't matter when we are actually trying to do this. People will still say, oh, INEC is up to this or INEC is up to that. What I want us to focus on is, why are we doing this? Do we have any reason to do it?
No doubt. We are in agreement with you that everywhere is a normal process leading to conduct of election. There's every need for INEC to decongest some of the existing polling units, and some of the other ones you mentioned. You talked about those in crisis areas. There's a need to do it. It's just about the process that is the problem. But now, as the Electoral Commission, what are you going to do to assuage the fears of some persons, especially the PDP, and that you're going to be fair and firm in this process?
Thank you very much. You know, like I said, there is absolutely no reason for either PDP or any political party to have any fear, because we haven't decided yet on what to do. We have a platform for political parties where we hold quarterly meetings. There is nothing INEC has done that political parties have not been involved. Even the current continuous voter registration exercise, they were all involved.
Was this issue raised at that quarterly meeting with the political parties?
The what?
The plans for the new polling units, has it ever been raised at that meeting and forum with political parties?
There is nothing that has not been discussed with the political parties. Nothing that has not been discussed with them. But you know, this process is a process that is still ongoing. You know, it's not as if INEC has decided. I keep saying that INEC has not decided that one polling unit will be established in one zone or the other zone or anything like that. We are still in the information gathering stage, where we are looking at, okay, we have maybe requests from Southwest, Southeast, Northeast, Northwest for these polling units to be established. Resident and Electoral Commission in these zones, could you please investigate these areas and furnish us with information based on these guidelines? When we harvest that, then we look at the merits of these requests. We then call the stakeholders to say, look at what we have. You know, we debate it. Like our strategic plan, like our electoral project plan, we always call stakeholders to debate. And they will offer suggestions, they would agree and disagree. It is when we all agree that this thing is done. So what I'm saying people should not be suspicious is that there is nothing we are going to do under the table. We are going to bring everything out. So it's not secret. It's just that internal processes are still going on.
Okay.
When it gets to the stage that we want to establish anything, everybody will be involved, including the PDP and all political parties.
We'll just have to thank you so much, Rotimi Oyekomi, Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman, for your information and clarification.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Okay, at least it says the record straight. INEC says it has commenced the process, but it's still at information stage, at infancy, at a point that other stakeholders should know. They will raise it with them and consult and get their input. But let's turn to, you want to add something to it?
It also raises the question of timing. If you're still consulting at this stage, how many more months to the general elections?
About 10 months to general election.
All right.
Well, let's hope that they will bring in other stakeholders into the process for confident building to take place. Let's quickly take you to Washington, D.C., where a meeting of the World Bank and the IMF spring meeting is still ongoing. Some of top government functionaries, many of them, they were also supposed to be part of an investment summit in Nigeria, in the Nigerian embassy. But before we get to that, we're supposed to have started with this news. Dino Melayo, a distinguished senator, was prevented from boarding an aircraft to Morocco to attend an engagement, a parliamentary engagement.
The Morocco-Nigeria Parliamentary Friendship Summit.
The initial report was that he was arrested by security agents, but when we made clarification, we were told that he was stopped from boarding the aircraft. Why he was stopped, we don't yet know.
And some people are already asking, oh, if the immigration is so efficient, why could it not stop Mena from traveling when Mena was declared a wanted person in Nigeria?
Well, we know Dino Melaye was declared wanted by the police. Was it the police that stopped him, or the immigration, or DSS? The immigration and the DSS are the security agencies at the heart of our airports, especially the outgoing international terminals. Maybe with time, they furnish us with information as to why they prevented the senator from traveling out of the country. Maybe the police asked them to do so. They believe maybe the gentleman has some issues to sort out here in Nigeria.
A senator of the Federal Republic, of course, the airport is one place the government can stop anyone from either coming in or going out. But this controversy of declaring Dino Melaye wanted is a senator who comes to the National Assembly every day for his parliamentary duties. The police is aware there were policemen there.
Some say even his police orderly is still with him.
Yes, and of course he has not been. I don't know if the police had invited him to come and be interrogated or whatever. At times, we go to the media for the sensation of the wild headlines to create, and people will jubilate. But Dino Melaye is Dino Melaye. The police is also there.
Well, more information will come out and we'll share it with you. The incident in Washington, we don't have much time. A program organized by the Nigerian government, very critical program if you ask me, because it's a meeting of investors with senior government functionaries. They stayed away. You ask yourself, what did they go to Washington?
I mean, how can a fitting a traveling minister on official assignment can ever tell anybody that he or she doesn't know the itinerary? Are they there to go and sleep on government money?
Who organized the trip? If you're moving outside Nigeria, we know, I know for instance, because we have covered Nigerian government, the entire organization is borne by the Nigerian mission.
In fact, you're given your itinerary even before you move from the country, even as a journalist.
Because it's an official function, it's not a personal function. Yes, to the central bank governor and the minister of finance have said they had on their engagements, they were not informed before they left Nigeria. That it tells you that there's a problem between the protocol in their respective organizations and Nigerian embassy. There is no synchronization.
In other countries,
and it should be there. What of the other ministers and governors who were there?
In other countries, you dare miss such sensitive meetings? You get out of the cabinet. The reason why they will continue doing things the way they do is that since the inception of this cabinet over 3 years ago, there are those who have not performed, no impact on governance. They have not been
and the big man has refused to take action. Well, we thank the Emir of Kano. He's very outspoken. Sometimes it pushes him to trouble.
He's a man who understands the economy of this country.
Let him continue to speak up to expose some of the excesses and inadequacies of those in government. If the president doesn't query them, then it leaves a lot to be desired. The much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thanks for being part of it. On Tuesday, we'll continue on behalf of my colleagues. My name is Amichi Anapu.